Hi, welcome to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Thanks for joining the conversation. Hi, everyone. I have a disclaimer in this episode. You might be offended and you might not like what I have to say today, but I need to say it. And all of the feelings that I am expressing are my own, and they do not represent any of the organizations I work for or with. These are my personal thoughts and my personal opinions. You may unfollow me and dislike me. I don't care because I need to get this off my chest. So those of you who are listening, thank you for dealing with my rant. I am really fucking angry. And there are times when expletives are necessary. Now is one of those times. My anger has been just building and building and building over the past several months of news cycles and legislation disappointments. And I'm inundated with just emotions and feelings that I can't keep a track of. Not even sure where to begin. No order of importance. Excuse me. Roe v. Wade, mass shootings, anti-Asian hate, the war in Ukraine, don't say gay, voter suppression. Our education system is under attack. The sad part is there's so many more things that are happening. It's not even coming into my mind. I can't even begin to address them all. I really don't know how parents can get up in the morning and send their kids off to what we call in Florida schools, setting aside the fact that they could be worried about their kids getting killed. More on this later. But recently, Florida's governor and legislature passed the Don't Say Gay bill, which prohibits teachers from allowing, kindergarten through third grade children to receive any instruction or conversation about sexual orientation or gender identity. And studies have shown that LGBTQ youth already face a really high risk of health and suicide risks. And it's really not acceptable. It's not okay. When kids are given access to safe spaces that affirm their gender identity, they report that there are lower rates of suicide attempts. And that's according to the Trevor Project, which I recommend everybody check out and support. They also passed the Stop Woke Act bill, which will prohibit corporate trainings and school lessons to make that inhibit you from making people feel uncomfortable about the actions of their ancestors. I don't understand how this can be determined, but who gets to decide what constitutes if someone's going to feel bad, right? History is fact. We should actually feel bad about the actions of our ancestors if it's worth feeling bad about, if it's negative, if it's something that we can learn from. Right? I think we can learn to be better than our ancestors. And so we should learn from our history, not avoid it. Again, just my opinion. Education is already too focused on standardized testing, memorization of dates, and just regurgitating facts versus critical thinking and teaching kids how to communicate with one another and interact through meaningful conversation. As a teacher of sorts, as many of you know, I'm a martial arts teacher. I really believe in trying to get the kids to talk and communicate and think for themselves. They're always so worried about the right or wrong answer. And it's frustrating. It's frustrating to have a conversation with them when they're just afraid that there's only one way to answer a question. And it's disturbing, honestly. And I think we can do better. A separate issue from discussing race and racism is history inclusion. And as you all know, over the last year, I've been working with a wonderful organization, in a coalition, of volunteers, parents, teachers, students that are advocating for AAPI history in our schools. And that's called Make Us Visible Florida. And we're not asking for anything special. We're just demanding inclusion. Our state currently already mandates Holocaust studies, African American studies, Hispanic heritage, women's studies, and contributions. So why is Asian American and Pacific Islander studies excluded is the question. And unfortunately, our bill failed. And instead, we've been seeing bills that are being passed that are meant to divide us and and separate us. And I'm really frustrated that the AAPI history inclusion bill that we wrote, which was very simple and just demanding that K through 12 learn about Asian American and Pacific Islander history, didn't even see the light of the House of Representatives floor or any of the committees. And it's a bill that focuses on public safety for our kids in our community. AAPI history inclusion would help so many people see that Asian Americans are American. A lot of the discussions I've had during this last month of AAPI heritage has been with fellow Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders. And one thing that really struck me was the fact that so many of them said they didn't identify as Asian American or were embarrassed to be Asian American and didn't really embrace their culture and heritage until maybe college. And honestly, I felt a lot of the same way. It was a little bit later in life. And I really feel that one of the reasons is that we have never seen ourselves reflected in the textbook in history of this country. We have never been taught all the contributions that Asian American and Pacific Islanders have made to this country. And also we weren't really represented positively in media. So these are all very, very concerning issues. And we just didn't really feel American because we've been erased from the narrative. And as the last month has gone on, I've been trying to learn more, and I've learned a lot of really cool facts about the fact that, being born in America and therefore being a citizen was because an Asian American brought that to the table and said, hey, we need to, birthright citizenship is a thing and it matters. And that was Wong Kim Ark, I believe. And it's just, had we known this, had other people known this, these facts, not little, these immense facts, we probably wouldn't be seen as foreigners all the time, right? And it's just really frustrating. And it is why our citizens and why our community is under attack. The next generation of children deserve to see themselves reflected in history. Their peers should recognize that Asian Americans are not some exotic people that do not belong, and that all Black, Indigenous people of color have to undergo these feelings of not being American enough is not okay. A lot of people in our society have tried to divide our communities, especially the BIPOC community, and pit us against one another. And honestly, the more I learn, the more that there has been solidarity amongst the community and our people and across cultures. So what does it mean to be American? What does America look like? When I look around, what I see when I see America is diversity. I see people from all backgrounds. When I walk into my classroom at my Kung Fu school, it is not one heritage that's represented. It's multifaceted. And even within Asian Americans, there are so many different cultures that are represented. I want to learn about them. The America I live in is not just one color. I also had a conversation recently with Dr. Helen Su and Dr. Catherine Teotico on the high rate of suicide amongst the AAPI community, especially in college. And there are a lot of reasons for this tragic fact, but I won't rant about that here. Instead, I urge you to please listen. That conversation is going to be released this week. It's one of the last AAPI Heritage Month conversations, and it's a really important one. So I urge you to please listen to that. Thank you so far for hanging in there with me if you are on board this rant roller coaster that is. But if you're against seeing the elderly citizens being attacked in the streets or women being followed home and brutally beaten, please consider speaking out against these hate crimes and advocating for AAPI history inclusion as a long-term solution to this violence. We often feel helpless when we see these acts on TV and we're getting desensitized to it, and we really shouldn't. We should be able to recognize that we have the power to make this stop. And I've said this before, I will say it again, every action matters. Every single thing you do adds up to either help the problem or make the problem worse. So the act of doing nothing is also an act, right? So please realize that you can do any capacity of help by volunteering, donating, listening, and learning. The one big thing I'd like everybody to think about is that we are in election time. It's an election year, and we need to turn out and vote. I'm going to list in my blog post here for the people that supported our bills in Florida on my blog post, for the people that supported for AAPI history inclusion. It's not a very long list. I want you to make a note of who they are, because I like to be an informed voter. I like to know who I'm voting for. I don't vote on party lines. And I urge you to vote for people that are actually doing the work that you believe in and supporting the causes you believe in. So if you believe in AAPI history inclusion and wanting our kids to learn about this in school, then vote for the people that are going to help make this happen. Because I can tell you that I called representatives, almost all of them, multiple times. And there are some that just did not pick up the phone, that did not answer, that did not give us the time of day. And there's others that actually invited us in to have a conversation and to learn more. And they wanted to support and also help elevate our messaging. So do not vote on party lines. Please, please be an informed voter, and please vote. Again, I'm going to be really repetitive during this conversation, and I apologize, sort of. The Supreme Court is very likely going to overturn Roe v. Wade. And I'm really trying to contain myself for this part of my monologue, because many of you know that I started sharing my childhood story of sexual abuse after the Kavanaugh hearings, and that the Me Too movement also was a big motivation for me. But it took me a really long time as an Asian American woman, as a Kung Fu teacher, as somebody that people look up to be able to share this part of my narrative, of my story. And honestly, the final catalyst was seeing Christine Blasey Ford being attacked for her bravery. I knew once Kavanaugh was going to be sitting on that Supreme Court that Roe v. Wade was going to be in danger. I had conversations with people about this. They told me, oh, don't worry, it's never going to happen. And then with the untimely passing of the great Ruth Bader Ginsburg, it only solidified my fears. And now with the majority of the Supreme Court being ultra conservative, we, had this leaked opinion that came out, and it's only a matter of time. I knew it. And we are now fighting for reproductive justice, and the fear of Roe v. Wade being overturned is becoming a reality. And a lot of you are really going to hate that I'm talking about this, but honestly, a woman's right to choose for what she needs for her own body should not even be a discussion. I remember having these conversations, and I remember being really upset about it. And I knew that Kavanaugh was a liar because he lied about his sexual misconduct. And then he forced people to attack a victim and a survivor. And I knew that this was going to happen because he said that he would not overturn Roe v. Wade. And now look where we're sitting. I'm not also letting Neil Gorsuch off the hook either, because he's also a liar, because I believe he also said, oh, no, once I'm in, don't worry, that's Constitution. We're not going to touch that. But here we are. It's really baffling. I have to bring it up that people took to the streets to protest wearing a mask to protect themselves and others from a deadly virus, and saying that it was their body and their right to not have to wear a mask from getting other people sick and killing them, yet they have the audacity to believe they have the right to tell a woman what to do with their body. So I'm not going to keep going on this. I know that no matter what, you're either going, yeah, you're exactly right, I agree with you, or you absolutely have already turned me off because your mind is already made up. I'm not here to change anyone's mind. Absolutely not. I'm not going to have you change your opinion. That is not my goal. I'm ranting because honestly, it's making me feel a lot better when I write and I use it as an outlet. This podcast has been my voice and my way of sharing with the community stories of empathy, of immigration, of LGBTQ journeys, of people, survivors, of BIPOC community members, just so many stories. Like, these conversations have really been healing for me, and so many people have shared that it's helped them too. So thank you for that feedback. I appreciate it. But I am also here not just to rant and feel better, but because I The one thing I do want you to take away is please, please go and vote, especially if you live in Florida. I know that the Florida I live in, the majority of you believe in equality and human rights and education and public safety. So I know that if the majority of us vote, we will show the nation and the world we're not the Florida that's been represented the last few years. I really believe in us. And I really believe if one extra person votes from hearing this, then I'm so glad I turned on my microphone today to talk to all of you. If you're upset seeing these hate crimes and seeing all of these and the voter suppression, don't get me started, then you need to get out there and vote. It's in your best interest. It's in the future of the kids and the world's best interest. But we're not powerless. We're not powerless to see change. And I feel like we feel that way because when we see these heinous crimes, when we see violence, when we feel sympathetic and empathetic for things that are happening on TV, that we feel like we can't do anything. But honestly, you can. You absolutely can. And you can speak out, but you can also vote. And I would like you to look up the people who have proven they are actually fighting for women's rights, equality, the improvement of education, and the safety of our community. Don't just vote on party lines because they are all a lot of liars, right? So look at who is doing what. If you need help with that, we'll start posting things so that you can have places to look things up that have objective point of views and just show you the facts. Because you can't just trust what you hear because people lie. I'd like to talk a little bit about safety because this was my catalyst, my breaking point of, okay, I guess I'm going to record this podcast that I have been trying to avoid. I've been trying to say, just keep it down, just go meditate on this. But the shootings this week, over the last couple weeks, from the shooting in California on a Taiwanese church, from the Buffalo mass shooting to more Asians being attacked in Texas in a salon, and our children being shot at in school where they're supposed to be learning and educated and being safe. When I turn on the news and I see a mass school shooting, I don't feel kids are safe. When I see a church of senior citizens being killed by a gunman, I worry for the safety of my parents, of the elderlies, of the senior citizens. When a grocery store mass shooting occurs, I don't feel safe. Why do we prioritize guns over humans? Why do we prioritize guns over humans in this country? I will never understand. Other countries have changed their laws to prevent future mass shootings. I don't know why we can't follow in their example. I understand that we can't get rid of the Second Amendment and we have a right to bear arms. That is our right. But isn't it also our right to live? Isn't it also our right to breathe? Isn't it also our right to be able to feel like we can send our kids to school safely without fear to go grocery shopping? I think that's my right. And I think those rights are more important than the right to bear arms. I'm not saying that we can even do it. It would never happen. We're not going to take away all guns, but there are so many laws that could help prevent this. And I don't understand why. I believe it was Steve Kerr or Beto O'Rourke. One of them was like, we are being held hostage by this Senate. We are being held hostage by people who are controlling the safety of this nation. And it's not okay. And I urge you, please go and vote them out of office because that does not represent what we want for this country. I live in Florida. It's an open carry state. After the pandemic and seeing the rise of anti-Asian hate crimes, one of the first things I did was I had my staff train in active shooter training for my school, my temple, my place of harmony and meditation and peace, and the place that I go to feel safe and calm. I thought would possibly be a target, right? And just talking about it now makes it scary, right? And all I could see is more hate and divisiveness. But in this state, we have untrained people with guns who are openly carrying, and this is legal. Teaching our kids about AAPI history is not included in our state mandate, but openly carrying a gun is allowed in Florida. Does anyone else see the problem here? How many more people have to die? It's really bleak. My husband, as you know, is of Dominican heritage. He's Hispanic, and he's like, well, if Sandy Hook didn't change anything, why would this? These are a bunch of Hispanic kids in Uvalde. No one's actually going to care enough to make a change. Lots of thoughts and prayers. I'm happy for you, for those of you that take comfort in that. That's not enough for me. I need to see action. I need to see change, because I don't know how much more I can stay positive and hopeful when I see all of these things happening. This just doesn't have to happen. We can do something. And what we can do, say it with me now, is vote. We can vote for the people who are pushing for better gun safety and better gun control. No one has said anything about taking away guns. I know it's not going to happen, but we can do so much better to keep our children safe, to keep our community safe. Instead of doing better, Florida legislation is focusing on taking away women's rights and excluding AAPI history. And it's really difficult for me to continue to feel positive and work in a community where people are voting on decisions that are not in the best interest of the people. But voter suppression is also real. We've seen state lines and districts being redrawn so that it makes it very difficult for the BIPOC community and underprivileged communities to vote. We don't have the day off to vote. They're making, mail-in and drop-off much more difficult. Voter suppression is happening, but we cannot let them win. We cannot let them silence us. November is only a few months away, and unfortunately, there will be more shootings and more attacks on Asian Americans and more restrictions on women's rights. I think I just saw that Oklahoma passed to make it illegal for abortion, and we cannot stay silent. We need to vote. I am not ranting to change anybody's mind or belief, because I know that I cannot. But I am ranting to get you to please remember, for the next few months, stay fired up, stay heartbroken over these shootings, stay motivated, get off your ass and vote. For those of you in Florida, that's November. For those of you in other states, look up when that is and get out there and vote for the people that are going to make change, not for the people that are trying to suppress us from voting, not from the people that are taking away our rights and not pushing for better safety for our kids and for better education and public safety of our community. I believe that it's our responsibility now to save our democracy, because it is definitively under attack. So please get out there and vote. And please be kind to one another and yourself. Thank you for those of you that hung with me this long. It was a difficult conversation with myself, but I appreciate you allowing me to rant and share and get all of this off my chest. So I hope everybody stays safe and healthy, and let's do better for the future. That's all for today's episode. Thanks for listening to the Sifu Mimi Chan Show. Please subscribe and rate my podcast on your platform of choice and leave a review. You can become a patron of the show at patreon.com/SifuMimiChan to help keep this podcast going. Follow me and interact on social media at Sifu Mimi Chan on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook.